In your opinion, what is an album with no bad songs? The song All the Young Dudes, which Bowie wrote and gave to Mott the Hoople, who recorded it and had a hit with it. Bowie sings background chorus in the song, was originally meant to be on Ziggy Stardust, which makes the album even more brilliant, if possible, if you include that song on it. In 5 years Bowie sings about how newsmen wept when he told us Earth was really dying, and the idea of the news is featured in All the Young Dudes. Who carried the news? Time Out, the Dave Brubeck Quartet, first jazz album to reach 1M sales, also first jazz single, Time Out, to reach the same milestone. Wow, thanks for all the love everyone. My father was a big jazz fan and was from that era. He had some Brubeck records and I'm starting my own collection in vinyl. I recently got Countdown, Time in Outer Space also. I'm late to this party so this will get buried, but The Prodigy's The Fat of the Land is one of the seminal electronic albums of the British canon and set the tone for an entire generation of big beat producers. Fire Starter, Breathe, Smack My Bitch Up, Mindfilled. Every single track was a booming, pulsing anthem to anarchy that immediately grabbed you by the shoulders and shook you awake. Liam Howlett's knifey synths and pounding basses filled you with an aggressive energy impossible to ignore. Keith Flint's punchy vocals gave you permission, ordered you, sometimes, to smash shit up and take no prisoners. Fontle was an enduring force of nature like no big beat album before it, completely changing the landscape of electronic music. Even now, some 25 years later, you'd be hard-pressed to find many people who wouldn't immediately recognize Firestarter's iconic opening riff or be able to reel off Smack My Bitch Up's controversial lyrics. Anyway, if it's been a while since you heard it, or if by some terrible confluence of events you've never heard it, do yourself a favor and fire up Spotify now. You won't regret it. I love that album, but I will raise your revolver. It starts off in typical, prime Fab Four poppy fanfare, slowly getting further out there, experimenting with tape loops, mellotron sounds and orchestration. By the time you get to the final track, Tomorrow Never Knows, it's like the boys and George Martin are priming the world for the Sgt. Pepper bomb that they dropped the following year, forever changing the landscape of contemporary music. The perfect transitional album. Araya Tarka Just still leaves me lost for words. Truly a magnificent album that will hopefully only continue to grow in notoriety as time lapses. Released almost 20 fucking years ago on New Year's Day 2003. 10 tracks clocking in at exactly an hour. The best concept album since Pink Floyd's heyday, possibly ever. Random fun story. My English teacher in high school had a former student that was dating, eventually married a member of LP. He was at their wedding, but at one point when she gave him a copy of their early work back when the band name was Hybrid Theory, he listened to it and told them, "Listen, your music isn't bad, but don't quit your day jobs." Sports by Huey Lewis and the News. Their early work was a little too new wave for my taste, but when Sports came out in '83, I think they really came into their own, commercially and artistically. The whole album has a clear, crisp sound, and a new sheen of consummate professionalism that really gives the songs a big boost. He's been compared to Elvis Costello, but I think Huey has a far more bitter, cynical sense of humor. Technically this could be said about any of the Pink Floyd Big Four. The Wall and Sad are both albums that tell a story, so even the random filler songs, Is There Anybody Out There, Bring the Boys Back Home for the Wall, On the Run, Speak to Me Fred Sod, are considered pretty good. My favorite fun fact on this album, the vocals for O Comely, an 8-minute song, were done in one take because Jeff Magnum started warming up and just didn't stop. So at the very end you hear someone in the control room yell "Holy shit," loud enough to bleed through to the recording. To be a fly on that wall. Also, in case you didn't know, the album is based off of some science fiction story. I can't remember the origin. There's a link to that I think in some of our Goat Your Ass Song of the Week discussions. where basically somebody was sent to these outer planets to gather information and meet some deities and all that. The album is a reflection of that long journey and has a bunch of little journeys, diving deep into the highlights and concepts found, realized on the journey. It's just so cool to me how I feel that everybody can connect personally to it and be more understanding. I'm a little tired at the time I'm writing this, but I'm down to elaborate on anything anyone is curious about. Musicians don't get to talk about music enough for some reason. I think about that a lot. My theory is that they were so good because he was perfecting all those verses for years up to that point, because we heard different versions etc. over the years of some of those verses. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those rhymes were started when he was like 13, 14 and they all came together in that one album. My favorite example of this, I almost like it better, https://www.youtube.com/watch V equals mock IVTWM. I know that the three people who read this probably won't agree, but the soundtrack for Disney's Tarzan, I don't know why a bunch of people don't like it, but every song slaps. Phil Collins put way more into it than he needed to, but damn, the soundtrack makes the movie so much better. When I was probably 11 or 12, I played on an indoor soccer team one winter, and our coach was an English guy doing one of those exchange coaching program things, living in the US for a year. One day after practice, he gave us all burned CDs and told us to listen to his best mate's band. That CD ended up being Whatever People Say I Am. Stayed in the 6 CD changer and my mom's van for years. Awesome album. It really gets on my nerves when people rag on them for being a basic intro to alt rock band. That's not me saying that there's some hidden gem or anything, but it's like once enough people start enjoying something, there's suddenly waves of people that make fun of those who like said thing. Apologies for the rant. Sometimes the more cynical, critical corners of the internet seem the loudest lol. That being said, they were the first band that I listened to their entire discography. I even find my own poetry sounding like some poor man's Alex Turner lyrics lol. Yup, came here to say this. Some may argue Thriller, and I love MJ, but come on, The Girl Is Mine is cheesy, but that has a bit of everything for everyone. Even the lesser known songs from the album are great. Speed Demon makes you wanna run. Liberian Girl is so goddamn beautiful and makes you wanna sing your heart out by the end of it. And Just Good Friends is so damn funky and fun with Stevie Wonder. And of course everyone knows Bad, Smooth Criminal, Man in the Mirror, etc. Yay, I fought against Morning View being my favorite because it's generally considered their poppiest album, but it is damn good. I just still love Science because of Jose Padilla's drum solo in Vitamin when they perform it live, and because of Nostalgia. I met my first ever girlfriend at an Incubus concert and made out with her during Aqua's transmission. Pet Sounds is their best album, period. Surf's Up is a close second though, but they have some really skippable songs, such as Student Demonstration Time, which really kills the mood of the album, and Take a Load Off Your Feet, which is like a Brand X version of Vigo Tables from Smile, Smiley Smile. But all of the other songs on that album are some of the most amazing stuff the Beach Boys put out in the 70s before they became a nostalgia act, with songs like Don't Go Near the Water and A Day in the Life of a Tree, which are deep and thoughtful environmental songs. Feel Flows and Long Promised Road are just beautiful. Disney Girls, 1957, is a cutesy, nostalgically heartwarming ballad, and the title track, which was a leftover song from the aforementioned Smile project that Brian Wilson tried to make after Pet Sounds came out, is the piece de resistance of the album. Can't believe this isn't higher up. Fantastic album with production and mixing way ahead of its time. Like most artists, Britney created her best work during her darkest personal period. No fillers. Too bad that era was a mess and it never received the promotion and recognition it deserved at the time. Gimme More never gets old. There are quite a few albums with no bad songs, but that doesn't mean they're great either. However, Jay-Z, The Black Album, Bring Me the Horizon, Sempiternal, and Linkin Park, Meteor are a few that come to mind when I think of solid through and through albums. Edit for grammar. Jeff Buckley, Grace, Pink Floyd. We Want Animals. The Wall is half grap and Saddam is 1/3 grap. Fight Me. Joe Satriani. Not of This Earth. Surfing with the Alien. Metallica. Mop. Ajfa. Black. Vola. In Mazes. Radiohead. OK Computer. The Mars Volta. Francis the Mute. Deloused. Public Enemy. Faux BP. Opeth. BWP. Still Life. Goat Ovaries. Sturgill Simpson, The Ballad of Dude and Juanita. David Allan Coe, The Mysterious Rhinestone Cowboy. Flatland Calvary, Welcome to Cowantry, and Buck Owens Ruby and Other Bluegrass Specials. Marty Robbins, Gunfighter Ballads and Trail Songs. Tom T. Hall, In Search of a Song. Jesse Daniel, Beyond These Walls. I feel like no matter how much I love an original album by Streetlight, the next one just blows it out of the water. The Hands That Thief for me is the current pinnacle. It is so amazingly layered, thought-provoking lyrics, the horns all working separately but absolutely in tandem. Sonically it's pure perfection. Looking forward to their upcoming album. AC/DC, Power Age, Let There Be Rock, PWR, Up, Back in Black, Highway to Hell, For Those About to Rock, Jean-Michel Jarre, Oxygen, Equinox Infinity, Rendezvous, Oxygen 3, Rainbow, Rising, Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow, Straight Between the Eyes, Deep Purple, In Rock, Machine Head, ELP, Brain Salad Surgery, Tarkus, Trilogy. Born in the USA or Nebraska, Bruce Springsteen. One is a great pop-rock album with great songs front to back, and the other is a great folk album that harkens back to Bob Dylan while focusing in on some harrowing stories or personal thoughts on family, death, and various other topics. Speaking of Bob Dylan, I'd argue that Highway 61 Revisited is also perfect front to back. I have 3. Want One album by Rufus Wainwright, Oceans Avenue album by the band Yellow Card, Construct of the State, name of the album, by the punk band Leftover Crack. I do not agree with Leftover Crack politically. I do not agree with the messages of their songs. It's just that they gave musicality a lot of punk bands lack. Project 86, and the rest will follow. Great heavy rock. Metal. I plan to check out a bunch of everyone else's suggestions. There are other albums for me, like Deliria 5, Mesomorphos and Jars of Clay's self-titled album. Probably a ton of others, but I'm a 90s kid that got into Christian rock before it all turned to garbage. That could just be the grumpy old man in me, though. Yeah, that's the last Iron Maiden album that I really like all the tracks and usually listen to all the way through. I bought a copy of Senjutsu a couple of days ago. I've listened to it twice and it's good, but I haven't really gotten into it yet. Edit. Oh yeah. For me, it'll always be Number of the Beast and Power Slave. What are you guys fucking talking about? In every one of these threads, the top albums almost always include My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy Low-End Theory 36 Chambers Marshall Mathers LP. Fudelmatic Deltron 3030. But please, go off about how you're so special because you figured out that hip-hop is good but none of the white people realize it. Chris Cornell's Higher Truth. I discovered this album after he had already passed. It blows me away how not a single radio station played anything from it when it debuted. The album's namesake is especially powerful and moving. Usually when someone in a band goes solo it's hit or miss. Not so for Higher Truth, where you'll hear an incredible display of talent throughout. Spiritual Machines by Our Lady Peace. I was going to say OK Computer by Radiohead, but Karma Police, while not bad, is mediocre as it just feels sketchy and incomplete. And it's a position between two great songs that leaves you expecting something that can hold the album together. I'd Quiet's always a controversy to talk about ABBA, maybe because it's pop or maybe because it's old, but their last albums are absolutely gold. The Visitors is art, much more mature than the usual ABBA. I would also list the album Endless Vu, which leans more into disco. Kids See Ghosts, Could See Ghosts. Honestly an iconic album. It's only 7 tracks, but the vocals, production, and mixing were fantastic. The album art is incredible too. My best friend even has a tattoo of it. It's an all-around masterpiece. IMO. Yeah, same here. It's interesting why Brandon Flowers chose that style too. People assumed he was English. Mr. Brightside is still in their top 100 now. When Hot Fuss came out and he hated getting that response so much he came out with an album as American as he could possibly get away with, till the newest one which is OK Tilda. Black Sabbath, Master of Reality Trouble, Manic Frustration Bruce Dickinson, The Chemical Wedding Enigma. Everything they've released, Dido, For Rent and Safe Trip Home Natalie Merchant, Retrospective Queen, News of the World See Murder, The Truest Dollar HTI Ever Said Chopped and Screwed, Pink Floyd, Pulse and Metal Probot Chris Stapleton Any Jamie Johnson Any Cody Jinks Any Tyler Childers Any Sheryl Crow Any. I can listen to the miseducation of Lauryn Hill without skipping anything. It's notable because it has lots of skits as was common in the 90s. I really hate skits but I like the ones in this album. Radiohead, In Rainbows, IMO is an absolutely perfect album. It's one of few I have on vinyl. These aren't necessarily well known, but they are some of my favorites. Born Under a Bad Sign, Albert King Red-Headed Stranger, Willie Nelson Shangri-La Mark Knopfler Higher Truth, Chris Cornell I'm Your Man, Leonard Cohen, Almost, But I Can't Forget Is a Little Weak. Oh and a very well-known one every album from Ride the Lightning to the Black Album by Metallica. Jeff Wayne's musical version of War of the Worlds. It's pretty much the only thing he's ever done, but it's just an amazing piece of work. If you haven't listened then to and on a road trip, do yourself a favor and immerse yourself in the experience. Velvet Revolver, Contraband. Maybe not everyone's thing but I was too young for the original GNR and wasn't aware of STP. It was a huge album for me growing up and it works perfectly from start to finish. I'm a guitarist but I always appreciated Matt Sorum's drumming on this. I think it's his best stuff. Rust in Peace from Megadeth. It is one of the greatest thrash metal albums produced, standing next to only Master of Puppets in terms of quality. The remaster sucks compared to the original, but the guitar work on it is top-notch, some of the best work I've heard in metal. Till this day I believe the only album who is great to start to finish is Paranoid, Black Sabbath. They have 3 great albums but always one song off. I don't even listen to metal anymore but for me it's undeniable a masterpiece. I enjoy Daft Punk album with One More Time. Even the movie is great. I don't know if it counts though. It's a weird list but here it goes. The Struts, Everybody Wants Blind Guardian, Nightfall and Middle-earth Love of Lesbian, El Poeta Halley My Chemical Romance, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge Sode, Toxicity Grup Love Never, Trust a Happy Song Thank You Scientist, Terraformer Pink Floyd, Animals. These are just a bunch of albums I truly love and are close to my heart. Admittedly there are some not great songs on some of these but I highly recommend listening to them anyway. Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, The Wall, Metal, Pink Floyd, Swimming, Circles, Mac Miller, The Stranger, Billy Joel, What's Going On, In the Groove, Trouble Man, United, Marvin Gaye, Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie, Mad Men Across the Water, Honky Chateau, Yellow Brick Road, Elton John, Rumors, Fleetwood Mac, Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, The Flaming Lips, Plastic Beach, Demon Days, Song Machine Season 1, Gorillaz. Electric Ladyland, Are You Experienced, Jimi Hendrix, Late Registration, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, College Dropout, Graduation, Kanye West, To Pump a Butterfly, Kendrick Lamar, The Ooze, 6 Feet Beneath the Moon, Man Alive, King Cruel, Little Dark Age, Oracular Spectacular, Management, The Glow PT2, The Microphones, In the Aeroplane Over the Sea, Neutral Milk Hotel, Telephone, Room 25, No Name, A Night at the Opera, Queen, Down to Earth, Rainbow, Rocket to Russia, Ramones.